Hey guys, Enigmatic Mr. L here. So, Fire Emblem discussion, a lot of times what comes up in it is bad units, but more than just, units have bad stats that, aren't very useful. At least some of them you get them for free. They join they join your army on like turn one. You can just, take the items off of them, just send them straight to the bench. That's it. But today I want to look at, units that in addition to just being bad, the hassles and hoops you have to go through to get them on your side just makes it overall just not worth it. So we're not just going to be looking at, raw stats like, for example, Meg and Radiant Dawn. Like, she's bad, yes, but you get her for basically free. You view a base conversation, she joins your team, and then you can just take fortune off of her like skill and sell that, get some gold. That doesn't really cost you anything. A little bit of like time, but unless you're doing a speed run, it's not that big of a deal. And even in speed runs, I think they recruit Meg just for like turn one shove strats. So we're going to be looking at how difficult they are to recruit or how tedious they are to recruit, that sort of thing. And in some cases, what you potentially miss out on by recruiting said character. However, I'm not going to be looking at opportunity costs in terms of like other units. So, like, if it might be a situation of like, hey, don't recruit Unit A because then you can't get Unit B and Unit B is better, I'm not going to be factoring that in here. So, even though, for example, in Blazing Blade, Harkin is generally considered the better unit than Corel, I'm not going to be counting that against Corel. And Corel isn't even going to show up on this list. With that out of the way, just get off the list. Starting at number 10, we have Bantu, specifically from New Mystery of the Emblem. So Bantu potentially joins in Chapter 8. You have to go to a village that's a little out of the way to recruit him. Like Mars starts to the left of the village, but the point he needs to seize is a little more to the left and then further up. Now, it's not that big of a deal. Like, then you just get Marth over there in like one or two turns and then just like rescue him and like basically lose no time. But the problem is, Bantu isn't just like a bad, like mediocre unit. He is a very strong contender for the worst unit in the entire franchise. He really just offers nothing of value. Like in this game, he doesn't even recruit Tiki. He doesn't like come with a stone recruit right away. He just you like take that off of him, sell it, give it to someone else. Normally, like I said, it's not that out of the way to do it. It's not that difficult, but because he's not just bad, but like borderline useless, I think that earns him a spot on this list, albeit at the very bottom. Like maybe if you're going for full recruitment or like that sort of thing, you just want like, fresh body for the grinder, that sort of thing, you could, it's not that big of a deal to like recruit him. Next, I have Hannibal from Genealogy of the Holy War. So to recruit Hannibal, he starts out as an enemy unit, and you have to get past him, avoid killing him, go all the way to another castle to like get his adoptive son, Corpor, or if you're doing substitutes, Charlo. Recruit Charlo, then take his like 5 movement all the way back to Hannibal, have a Corpor / Charlo talk to Hannibal to get him on your team. And what is your reward for doing all this? You have a general who has terrible movement in a game where having low movement like hurts probably more than any other game just because of Genealogy of the Holy War's notoriously very large maps, and terrible speed. He's going to get doubled by pretty much anything that has pursuit, and he doesn't have like pursuit himself. And the next like 2 chapters around are just full of like mages, sorcerers, that sort of thing. Hannibal does have a few good things going for him, what prevents him from being like higher up on this list. For one, Genealogy of the Holy War has no deployment limit. So you can just have him, maybe help defend a castle here or there. It's not much contribution, but there's no opportunity cost for using Hannibal once you recruit him. Like, even if you just leave him at the home castle, he might, send him through the arena here and there to like help with like RNG. Like, you could like miss an 80% attack, then just reset, reload a save since you can save every turn in this game. Have Hannibal go to the arena, fail, and then you can land that 80% attack. There's also the fact that Corporal / Charlo will not join you if you kill Hannibal. And even though he's not that great of a unit, like 5 movement, can't attack at base, he has a 4 to 5 staff. That's something, depending on what inheritance you can get. You can have like the Valkyrie staff, resurrect a fallen ally. Or if you have Charlo, we can like talk to Hannibal to get the game's only Berserk staff. So that is at least something, I guess. And lastly, it's a little bit tedious. It's a little bit frustrating to recruit Hannibal, but it's not too difficult. A common strategy is just use the sleep staff, put him to sleep, kill all of his like surrounding soldiers, and then Hannibal will try to go back to the castle to recruit more soldiers. But if you block that entry point, he just can't do anything. He won't attack, but he can't make it to the castle either, and then it's pretty easy to get corporal to him. So he does have that going for him. Next, we have Cath from the Binding Blade. So Cath appears in a variety of chapters, and you have to talk to her on 3 separate occasions to recruit her. The first time you talk to her, she'll just leave the map, but she'll come back. So at earliest, you talk to her in Chapter 6, Chapter 8, and then again in Chapter 12 to recruit her. Or, if you miss one of those times, you have to talk to her in like Chapter 16, 20, or 22, which is the very last chapter of the game, unless you get like the good ending. So as having thief utility, that's something. I guess she does have marginally more stats than one of your other thieves. The first one you get, Chad, but her stats even aren't as good as Astor, who you get like a few chapters before her. And there's rarely an opportunity for you to want to use 3 thieves. Like, there might be situations where it's useful, has like some marginal use, maybe like Chapter 14, the desert chapter, where you really want like thieves to give you more vision in the fog of war and, get those hidden items that thieves have a 100% chance to get. Unless you're like using like some kind of glitch to guarantee any unit can get it. But just in general, while she does have marginally more stats than Chad, they're not that significant. Like, there's the things that Chad is going to get one shot by, most likely Cath is going to get one shot by anyway. Plus, just the big reason is if you end up like just killing her on like her joining map in Chapter 6, she won't she won't appear again in like chapters 8 and 12, and that can make those maps a little bit easier. There's less pressure. You don't need to move like as quickly. You still need to move like some quickly, like in Chapter 8 it has some reinforcements that appear. Chapter 12 has a time limit if you want the guiding chapter. But in general, it can make those maps easier. Like, so let's say you're Iron Manning and you don't want to screw it up. Then that can be a situation where you just want to kill Cath on turn 6. I've done both. I've recruited Cath. I've killed her. I can see the argument for and against. Like, it's not that difficult to, just keep her alive, recruit her on Chapter 12. But at the same time, she doesn't offer much of value either. So I can definitely see her just, killing her off. She's just not worth the hassle. Next, we have Amelia from Sacred Stones, specifically an Erica route. So Amelia is a very terrible unit. She has garbage base stats, just joining like just under like the halfway point through the game. And she's competing with the Nightcrest, which would be better spent on like Franz or Kyle or even like Ford or Liam. She's competing with that. And like, even if you like grind her up and like promote her to like Chapter 1, just a Cavalier or Knight, she's going to have, I guess, good base stats for a level 1 Knight Cavalier, but she's still just a level 1 Knight or Cavalier like about halfway through the game. However, she does have a speed wing in her inventory. So you might think, well, it's good to recruit her just for that. But specifically in Erica route, after a certain number of turns when she appears in Chapter 9, she will leave if she's not recruited or killed, and she joins again in Chapter 13 as an enemy. And then if you just take the speed wing from her in Chapter 9, use Colm to steal it, then just rescue him out so she won't kill Colm or even like Colm kill her. You can talk to her again in Chapter 13, get another speed wing. And that second speed wing is going to be more useful than anything Amelia will ever do. So this is kind of situational. Like, technically, I would say it is worth recruiting her, specifically in Chapter 13 to get that speed wing. Like, you could just send Colm out again, recruit her, and you could send out just Colm again, steal the speed wing again, and kill her. But it's probably just easier to have Erica talk to her, have Amelia send her a speed wing to the convoy, and then just have her like distract a soldier to be instantly killed off. So yeah, I do think it is worth recruiting her specifically in Chapter 13 after stealing the speed wing in Chapter 9, but just the fact that she's so terrible and you have more gain by specifically not recruiting her at the earliest time, that I think earns her a spot on this list. Next, I have Siegbert from Fire Emblem Fates. This is the best unit on this list, at least like the top 10 part, before getting to like the honorable mentions. So Siegbert, he's a unit from Modern Fire Emblem, which I would classify as like Awakening onward, where there really are no bad units, outright bad. They're just some units that are better or worse than others. He has Royal Blood, thanks to his father Xander, so he can use Dragon Veins and the like. Starts in a good class. It gives like Paladin or like Great Knight bonuses, plus movement, and his personal skill if you pair him like use them as like a pair up bot on a female unit. They get, I think, like +2 damage dealt. So that's good. Plus, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert to know what the optimal pairings are and the like, but I'm sure you could give him some crazy good skills. So, all that good thing about him, why is he on this list and why is he beating out like half the competition? His recruitment, particularly on maddening difficulty, is just such a pain in the butt to deal with. It's like infinite reinforcements that have like void curse. They don't even grant experience. Normal and hard, it's not that bad, but lunatic, after many tries, I finally did it. I was like, okay, never again. Then my next lunatic run, I unlocked his paralog and I didn't even bother. Didn't even try it once. It's like, I'm never doing that again. At least on lunatic difficulty. It's kind of a shame that Siegbert is Xander's son, because Xander's a really good unit. You're likely going to be using him in your playthroughs. He'll be one of the units that you end up getting paired off, get an additional paralog, additional force for EXP, but his map is such a hassle that it's not worth it. Like the other child units, even if I don't end up using them, which is most of the time, I end up going through it just to get more experience on the units that I do plan on using, but not for Siegbert. Then we got Shinon. Shinon joins in the first few chapters of Path of Radiance, and at that point in the game, his stats are pretty good. He's a promoted unit, good speed, double most enemies. In the English version, snipers had an increased crit chance, so there'll be enemies that you might not think you would defeat, normally just using strength and defense, but that additional crit chance allows him to finish off some enemies. His provoke skill, while it's not the best thing to have like an archer who's always attacking on 2 range, it can at least take some of the pressure off your like other squishy units, the ones you're training up, maybe like Soren and the like. But then he leaves after like chapter 7, and by the time he joins again, it's not until chapter 18 when pretty much all of your other units that you're using, they're either promoted or they're like on the verge of their promotion. And then you got Shinon joining a foot-locked unit with a game dominated by mountain movement. Not as much as Genealogy of the Holy War, but still mountain units are dominant Path of Radiance. It's locked to bows, poor weapon type, and he only has like 9 strength. And then the cherry on top, if he has a brave bow, you might think, well, at least recruit him for the brave bow, but no, he drops that upon defeat, so there's really nothing to gain from it. His recruitment, it's obscure to be sure. You talk with him with Rolf, then defeat him with Ike. Not the most difficult thing in the world, but you still have to bring along Rolf, one of the worst units in the game, drag him along, bait out Shinon, and then have Rolf talk to him, and Ike specifically defeat him. It's just not worth it. If you recruit Shinon, unless you dump all of your bonus XP and stat boosters into him to contribute, he's not going to do anything except straight go to the bench. At that point, just kill him with any unit to get the brave bow, give it to a more deserving units like Astrid or Boyd. If you're training him, he promotes. Even Oscar for triangle, attacks shenanigans. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. Next, we have Wallace from the Blazing Blade. So again, like Shinon, Wallace, when he first joins in your first playthrough in Lin mode, he forces you to use the Nightcrest on himself. You gain so much defense that pretty much none of the enemies, except a light mage here or there, I think Plunger and the boss of Lin mode, can even damage him. But most players, that'll be the last time they ever see him, at least in your first playthrough, because he's in a route-dependent map, dependent on how much EXP your lords have gotten. And normal mode is very generous with EXP, and you're likely going to be using all of your lords. So you're probably going to go to the map where your combined level total of Lyn, Eliwood, and Hector is 50 or greater. So you'll never see Wallace again. But even on repeat playthroughs, where it's or maybe playing a hard mode, or maybe you just benched Eliwood and or Lyn, you get to his map. It's an annoying fog of war map. There's an easy 2-turn clear. Maybe it's 3 turns. It's been a while since I played Blazing Blade specifically. There's an easy clear, though, where you can get all the good stuff in that map, except you don't recruit Wallace. And because it's a fog of war map, I and I imagine many other players are just going to want to get out of there and move on. So there's that. But even if you go to the trouble of recruiting Wallace, his detriments really are much more apparent at the time he joins. Someone made the comment, his base stats, his stats when Wallace joins, they feel worse than Oswin's base stats. That's not actually true, but it feels that way. Oswin's been helping for your army, at least for a while. Maybe you benched him now to move on with units more mobility, or maybe you're still using him and he's outpaced Wallace, but Wallace is low movement, typical Armonite problems, and particularly low speed really are a detriment. The only reason you recruit him is just to get his stuff, a hand axe, a silver lance, and elixir, I think. But Blazing Blade in general, gold is plentiful. Money's not really an issue. It's not like Binding Blade where you could like use the extra money for a pair of boots like one chapters later. So he's better off just staying lost. Next one will be cheating a bit because I'm not just talking about multiple characters, but I'm talking about multiple games, specifically Mystery of the Emblem and New Mystery of the Emblem. So in Mystery of the Emblem, Roshea can potentially join in the penultimate chapter if you don't get the best ending. He requires like going to a village that's kind of out of the way to get to. And he was the one character in my like only playthrough of a Mystery of the Emblem that I just did not bother recruiting. Like I had another character or two end up dying I didn't reset for, but Roshea was just at that point I was like late to the game, saving up my warp uses. I'm like, I just have Marth warp over, like have a boss killer warp over, and it's like boom, clear the chapter, done. Don't need to go to the village at all. But even if you recruit Roshea, he's just like a cavalier who joins your army when you've had plenty of cavalry already. And sure, it's a decent enough class, but like a lot of players, they're not going to like want to use too many of them just for unit variety. You already have Cain, Abel, Luke, Rodney, Cecile, Sirius, I think he's called this. Yeah, Sirius. He's just not worth it. And then he's immediately outclassed by Midia in the very next chapter. So not like the worst thing ever, but just not worth it. And then on top of that, in New Mystery of the Emblem, it gets even more convoluted because in addition to previous problems, you can now recruit the rest of like Hardin's like Royal Four Men. But you have to visit the village with Roshea. Violent appears as a reinforcement. Have Roshea talk to Violent. Have Violent talk to Siegbert. And then Siegbert talk to Wolf. And it's just not worth it. If you kill the boss of the chapter, all of the reinforcements stop. And New Mystery of the Emblem, Hard and Above, all reinforcements are ambush spawns. Enemy reinforcements that attack on the same turn they spawn. So it's generally just not worth it. It's going to be safer just, kill the boss and, either just clear it in one turn, like double warping, or just, being more leisurely, not have to worry about reinforcements. Either way, that's just, way less of a hassle. I haven't looked at their stats too much, but I know they're not like super amazing godly, which is what they need to be to make this like recruitment method just even like remotely worth it. And next we have Xavier, which I imagine many people are watching this wondering, and says, how in the world is Xavier not number one? Which I'll get to that shortly, but for those of you who don't know about Xavier, he's a character in Thracia 776. He appears in, I think it's like chapter 18 as an enemy unit. And most enemy units, you talk to them with your lord or someone else and they just join your army. And that's it. Maybe it's a little bit tricky. But the problem with Xavier, he's in a bit of a predicament. He has like 8 loyal knight friends who are being like held against like their will or forced into fighting you, even though they don't want to be, because there are 8 family members that are being held like hostage. You have to like unlock the door that frees the civilians, have each of those 8 civilian family members talk to each of those knights, and then you can recruit Xavier. But the knights will not attack the civilians, but there are other just generic enemies like Frege knights that will attack the civilians. And if any of the like civilians dies before they can like talk to the general you need to recruit, you fail to recruit an Xavier. And even if you like have a civilian talk to one of the correct knights, that knight will turn green, and then other knights will attack that unit, and that green knight will start attacking the other armored knights. Any of the generals like die before they're recruited, before they turn green, you fail to recruit Xavier. It's just a huge pain in the butt to recruit him. And then what is your reward if you do stick with it? You recruit Xavier. You get a unit with great defense, pretty good strength, wrath skills. That's nice. But can be useful, like say in chapter 20, which is like a defend/kill boss map, here and there. But he has an E rank in lances. You'd think like an indoor lance user, if they gave him like an A rank in lance, he would have like some niche, but no, he's at E. And it's got low magic, low speed, so it's like low resistance. And Thracia just has a lot of like hammers. Also, problem by the time you recruit Xavier, a lot of the chapters just boil down to like warp boss killer, warp leaf, kill boss, seize with leaf in the chapter 1 turn. Xavier doesn't get a chance to do anything. He does have an authority star, so that's a +3 hit, +3 dodge. That's something. It's worth deploying even if you're not like actively using him. I would say Xavier, he's definitely not worth recruiting, but I would say he is worth using if you're bothering to recruit him, like you're going for full recruitment or something. And I would also say everyone should recruit Xavier at least once just for like the journey, just the experience, even though pretty much every subsequent playthrough I have, I'm just going to kill him and move on. But in order for Xavier's recruitment to be worth it, he would need to be able to like quad dance, quad warp, solo the game, and do your taxes. All right, before I get with my number one pick, I just want to go a few honorable mentions, or I guess you could call them dishonorable mentions in no particular order. First, I have Renok from the Sacred Stones, specifically an Ephraim route. So an Ephraim route is really difficult to like recruit. You have to move fast. He's already thieving and moving at the very start of the map. You don't move quickly. He's going to like take the treasure and leave. Erica's route is a lot easier. He doesn't start actively moving until you like open the door that he's in. At that point, you just open the door, have Roshea touch and recruit him for free, or like Erica pay 10,000 gold. Ephraim route, like I said, it's a lot trickier. And like you already have Colm for thief utility. Sure, his stats aren't as great, but stats on thief aren't too important. It's nice to have more HP and defense, so you don't like die to straight hit if you're not being careful, but they're not like needed. However, what saved him from getting up on this list is I do think like if you don't recruit Renak, you're not missing too much, but I think it's generally kind of worth it to recruit him. He's useful in the next chapter, chapter 15, help with like the desert items. Chapter 16, help with the doors, chests, that sort of thing. And in chapter 19, it's a fog of war map. He has increased vision there. And if you're not like immediately warp skipping it, he can help with a few chests here and there. Also, I have Ferdinand von Eyre from Three Houses. So obviously, I'm not talking about like if you choose the Black Eagle route where you just get him for free. But if you're playing Blue Lions or Golden Deer, those students, if you get like a B support with them, they have a chance to just like, hey, can I join your house? And you say, yes, that's it. Ferdinand and Caspar, their B support is locked into like after the time skip. So you can't use that as an option. For Caspar, it's not that big of a deal. He requires proficiency in gauntlets. Like a certain requirement in gauntlets, which Byleth has like a natural proficiency in. So it's not too bad. Ferdinand requires a certain level in heavy armor, which the only way you're going to be getting that is in tutoring sessions. And in a free time skip, your tutoring sessions, you have to be really careful how you spend them. There's so much you want to spend them on. You have to be careful how you're allocating that resources. And if you do bother to recruit Ferdinand, it's modern Fire Emblem. Like I said, there's no bad units. Ferdinand has no banes in terms of like axes, bows, magic, and the like. He learns Swift Strike and Lances at A, so that's good. But his like paralog, they shares with Lysithea. You don't even get like a hero's relic or anything. You just get a few battalions. Generally not worth it unless you're like playing New Game Plus or like you really just, want to recruit every character. Also, I have Shiro from Fire Emblem Fates. Generally, the way I play Fire Emblem Fates, I know this isn't going to apply to everyone, but I don't have a problem grinding just for supports, like low-level skirmish maps, just to build support between units. I usually get most of my units like paired off about midway through the game, then just go through all the paralogs at once, but I understand not everyone's going to play that way. If you do Shiro's paralog too late, the enemy scale like much higher than him, and yes, he has an offspring skill he can potentially promote right away, but because he starts as a green unit, the enemies just completely crush him. Like you'll have to use like rescue staffs and use those to like get him safety if you end up like waiting on his paralog. And he's in the game, the routes like Birthright and Revelation, where you have Ryoma, one of like most powerful units like in the game. So Shiro's never going to be like anywhere close to the unit his father is. So like even if you do his paralog early, he's not going to like add a huge swell to your army feeling Shiro because at that point you already have Ryoma. I also have Donald from Fire Emblem Awakening. So in my worst unit in each game video I made a while back, I put Rickon as the worst unit, but in hindsight, I really should have picked Donald. Like I said, no bad units Awakening onwards. Donald has very good growth. And if given equal investment to him in many units, he will end up like surpassing them. You can go with like something like hero class Ryan, give him like high luck, give him like the arm swift skill, and then he can just use really powerful weapons without depleting him. But at that point in the game, like you have so many options available to you that early game contributions I think are way more valuable. And Donald just requires so much effort to get going. To recruit him, you go to his paralog, he has to gain a single level, and just getting that level It's not like the most difficult thing in the world, but it is really tedious. You have to like box in an archer and just repeatedly have like Donald poke him, hopefully get enough experience, get a level. Not difficult, but just more trouble than it's worth. Outside of seeing like his supports, Donald doesn't really offer anything value to your team. But, he's a 0 to hero arc, which can be fun. Just in terms of practicality, I'd say questionable whether or not it's worth it. And last but not least, I have Shura here, specifically from Fire Emblem Fates Conquest. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Shura, at least like a little bit. So Shura has a lot of good things going for him. He has good strength, and the very next chapter that joins, commonly called by Fire Emblem fans Ninja Hell, he performs very well in there. He's got weapon triangle advantages against all of like the ninjas there, and with a speed tonic and or like boost of speed like through a meal, he can end up reaching doubling thresholds, which is really nice. Helps with like that difficult chapter. And then in endgame, you can pair him up on someone. That person gets +1 movement, like a high movement flyer or cavalry unit. Move forward, switch over to Shura, who can also use staves. Use the rescue staves for, the notorious turn 1 clear of Conquest endgame. So that's all helpful. But as most of you know, or assume you know, if you don't recruit Shura, you get a pair of boots. And I'm not going to say that boots are absolutely 100% like superior to Shura, because again, Shura does have that, those good things going for him. But I will say that it's definitely not like 100% guaranteed you should always choose Shura. Like Shura, he's a Korin sexual, as it's called. He only supports Korin. He's got rather low growth. Most likely, let me just put it this way. If Shura is joined for free, like you couldn't get the boots, you just joined at the end of chapter 16, would you end up using him in every playthrough, especially like every map by the time he joins? Which I doubt it. Now, conversely, if you couldn't get Shura in like Fates Conquest, you just got a pair of boots, that is always to say, well, you can have, Shura just pair up a bow, killer bow, men. But the thing is, like, your deployment slots don't increase if you recruit Shura. You're likely already pairing up your units, pairing like using paladins, using master ninjas, using like wyvern riders. You're getting +1 movement, and boots can get +1 movement on top of that. You can't just pair up with a paladin and pair up on Shura. So +1 movement is inherently always a good thing, whereas versus Shura, there is an opportunity cost. And now my number 1 pick, we have Karla from the Blazing Blade. Karla joins when there's only like 2 or 3 chapters left in the game. She's a foot-locked unit, and she's a sword-locked unit, and her stats are, I'm not going to say they're terrible. Like, I don't think they're as bad as some people say. Like, they're serviceable, but again, it's just that. They're serviceable. Like, they work. I played on normal mode. The first time I recruited Karla, and yeah, she put in some work for me. I was kind of memeing around, but I was like, yeah, she works. I did see someone play on hard mode in that dialogue with all the berserkers because she has weapon triangle advantages. Yeah, she can work there, but the big problem with Karla is she requires you to train Bartre to at least a level 5 promoted warrior. So like Xavier's recruitment, as nightmarish as it is, you do get Authority Star out of it, and it's just difficult for that one map. And that's it. Maybe the map before, if you have to undeploy/deploy certain units to get their positions right in like chapter 18. But Karla, she's like a detriment to like most of the games. Training up this mediocre unit. Bartre was like terrible base speed, shaky accuracy, like with like axes, that sort of thing. Not the most difficult thing in the world, like especially playing on normal mode, but it's so tedious. It's like you're forced to use this mediocre unit, and you just get like a mediocre unit at the very end. Karla's unit, I did recruit once. Outside of just memeing and flexing, I really doubt I would ever do it again. And that is my list. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you have any characters you think like I underrated, I think so-and-so character is worth recruiting because this, or characters you think that I left out that you also feel aren't worth recruiting, please free to let me know in the comments below. This is Enigmatic Mr. L signing out.